Hey guys, this is your host Nitin Binhani, and a very warm welcome to my startup podcast channel Jazair Audio, where we share real stories with real learnings.
Today, we're zooming in on India, a nation that stands at a critical juncture in its economic journey, but also grappling with deep-rooted inequalities that could hold it back. With a gross domestic product, GDP, of $3.91 trillion in 2024, India is well on its way to becoming the fourth largest economy in the world by 2026, surpassing Japan. While these figures highlight India's rapid growth, they mask deeper structural challenges, particularly the growing disparity between the rich and the poor. GDP is a measure of a country's total economic output, but it doesn't account for income inequality, which is a crucial indicator of overall well-being. Economists suggest that GDP per capita is a more reliable measure of a nation's economic performance and living standards. India's GDP per capita for 2024 stood at roughly $2,700, the lowest among all G20 and BRICS countries. This figure underscores the urgent need to address the economic challenges that hinder inclusive growth. So today, we're uncovering the 5 key challenges confronting India's economic progress, supplemented by insights from some of India's most distinguished economists. Number 1. Rising fiscal deficit and debt burden. Raghuram Rajan, former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, sums it up well. The increasing fiscal deficit is a constraint on our future growth potential. This observation reflects India's growing debt concerns. By September 2024, India's external debt had climbed to $711.8 billion, a $29.6 billion jump from the previous quarter. Furthermore, the consolidated debt-to-GDP ratio stands at a concerning 81.6% as per the World Population Review. A rising fiscal deficit indicates that the government is spending more than it earns, resulting in borrowing and accumulating debt. This trend, if unchecked, can lead to long-term financial instability and limits the government's ability to invest in crucial sectors like healthcare, education, and infrastructure, the areas that drive real, inclusive growth. Number 2. Insufficient job creation for a growing population. Here's a reality check. India's economic growth isn't creating enough jobs, especially for the burgeoning youth population. Arvind Subramanian, former chief economic advisor to the government of India, warns, "Our growth has not been creating enough jobs, particularly for our youth, and this is a ticking time bomb." In 2024 alone, the Indian IT sector witnessed massive layoffs, with 151,500 employees losing their jobs due to cost-cutting measures and global economic headwinds. But the bigger storm on the horizon, advancements in artificial intelligence, AI, pose a long-term threat that could automate 40 to 50% of white-collar jobs in sectors like IT and BPO. So, the critical question is, how will the policymakers in India ensure that economic growth translates into jobs? Number 3. Infrastructure bottlenecks, hindering competitiveness. India's infrastructure has long been cited as a barrier to its global competitiveness. Kaushik Basu, former chief economic advisor, notes, "Infrastructure bottlenecks remain India's Achilles heel in competing globally." Despite an allocation of rupees 11 lakh crore, that's $128 billion, in the Union Budget 2024-25 for infrastructure development, significant gaps persist. Poor roads, unreliable electricity, and inefficient logistics inflate operational costs and slow down projects. If India wants to be a global player, it needs infrastructure to create an environment conducive to investment and business growth. Number 4. Widening wealth disparity. Perhaps the most pressing challenge is the income inequality. By early 2024, the richest 1% of Indians controlled a staggering 40.1% of the nation's wealth, the highest since 1961. Their share of total income, 22.6%, the largest since 1922. Meanwhile, the richest 10,000 individuals held an average wealth of $271.91 million, $16,763 times more than the national average of $1,000. In stark contrast, the bottom 50% of the population accounted for just 15% of total income. Raghuram Rajan puts it succinctly, despite headline GDP growth, real incomes for most Indians have remained stagnant for years now, particularly in rural areas. Montek Singh Ahluwalia adds, growth that doesn't reach all parts of the country risks creating two Indias. These two Indias are A. High-income consumer class, about 14 million individuals with annual incomes above $15,000, driving luxury and discretionary spending. B. Low-income poor class. Over a billion people earning less than $1,000 a year, spending mainly on basic necessities with no money left for discretionary spending. This divide isn't just an economic issue, it's a societal one. When the majority of a population lacks spending power, it restricts demand, stifles business growth, and ultimately hinders the broader economy. Number 5. Weak demand and stagnant consumption. Weak consumption is a significant concern, especially given its correlation with stagnant incomes. Arvind Subramanian remarks, the consumption slowdown is structural, not cyclical, requiring deeper reforms beyond stimulus measures. While luxury brands are thriving, the broader population is tightening belts, focusing solely on essentials. This split in consumption patterns stifles growth across industries, from manufacturing to retail. Without boosting the purchasing power of the middle and lower income segments, India risks a sluggish economic cycle. Conclusion: India's journey to becoming a global economic powerhouse is filled with promise but also peril. Yes, the GDP figures are impressive, but growth that leaves a majority behind is neither sustainable nor just. Bridging the rich-poor divide isn't just an economic challenge, it's a moral imperative. If India is to achieve true prosperity, it needs a model where growth is inclusive, debt is sustainable, jobs are abundant, and infrastructure supports ambition. Only then can India realize its true potential, a nation where prosperity isn't confined to a few, but shared by all. Folks, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Join us next time as we continue exploring the dynamic world of startups and the valuable lessons from their journeys.